this video, I'll be showing you how I automated Meta Ads insights with AI via n8n. These workflows are essentially just making my job as a Meta Ads media buyer a little bit easier. The first workflow exports the ads data into a Google Sheet and identifies the best performing ads. We need to do this via a Facebook developer app. It's essentially a way to directly get your ads data from the platform itself. I won't go deep into setting this up. You need to have a Facebook developer app. That's where you need to get an access token for it to work. This is the first workflow that I've built. I've built some conditions here to check if I need a long-term token. This node over here extracts the long-term token that is currently available and checks if this long-term token needs a refresh or not, because when interacting with Facebook APIs, there is a certain number of days that your token is live or not. So usually you'll get a short-term token on the Facebook developer app, after which you exchange it for a long-term token. There are some details I need to censor here due to sensitive information. The database consists of the end time and the current time. This code node essentially calculates the number of days of when the token will expire versus today's date. And if it's within 3 days, it will then request a new long-term token to be stored instead. If the token does not need any refreshing, it then goes forward and then utilizes that token to get the ads data itself. But if the token needs some refreshing, I then do another HTTP request to get a long-lived token. If you're interested in setting this up, just feel free to copy the settings I have here. Certain things you need to take note of is the client ID and the client secret and the FB exchange token. These are the things that are specific to your Facebook app. If I were to elaborate more, after getting this access token, this calculates the end date of the tokens. A long-lived token on Facebook usually lasts for 60 days. Let's say I get the token on 17th June, right? It will calculate 60 days from now and then store it in a database. Right now I'm using NocoDB, which is like an open source Airtable alternative. I've just used some set nodes here to store the long-term token to make it easy for me to access the variable later. The data I'm pulling here is actually for one of my live clients, so I actually need to censor some of these data out. But feel free to copy some of the HTTP requests that I have over here. I'm wanting to extract the campaign name, ad set name, ad name. I just want to collect as much information and then I'll do some data processing at a later stage. So this node essentially splits it out in a nice table format. When it comes to running Facebook ads, there are many objectives you can use. So the current objective I've narrowed it down to is only sales campaigns. Here there are many campaigns that are discarded over here, mostly because I'm also running video views on this account, but for now I'm not too interested in analyzing my video views awareness campaigns. The next thing I do is remove duplicates. Let's say there is the same ad in different campaigns. How I like to analyze this is actually just to mash everything together. I know I have a retargeting campaign, I know I have a mid-funnel campaign, but in this case I like to lump all the data together for analysis. After that, it then sends all the ad data to an Excel sheet. It will look something like this. I've also created a testing sheet for now, and these are all dummy data that I've populated. So with one single click, right, you can then extract the total spends, impression clicks, add to carts, checkouts, purchase value, ROAS, average order value, conversion rates. These are things that I think are very important when it comes to analyzing your meta ads. After the first set of data is populated to Google Sheet, I also have another node which calculates the overall benchmark data of the account. So this essentially sums up the spends, impression, clicks, add to carts, what's the average ROAS across all the creatives, what's the average order value across all the creatives, what's the average conversion rate. This really depends on different industries, and that's why I want to get a benchmark for this specific ad account. The reason why I do this is because I want to use this data and feed it to the LLM. Let's say for ad 1, the ROAS of this is 17.71. The benchmark right now is 15. It is slightly above average, and that is definitely a good thing. For every account, the benchmark is different. After that, I prepare the data for the LLM and combine the ad data and benchmarking data, and I would say this is where the magic happens, right? Where you have the data and this is the prompt I'm using. The honest truth is that I use the LLM to actually create a prompt for me, right? So feel free to take a picture of this, some snippets. You are a senior Facebook ads media buyer with extensive experience. What's the objective of this prompt? I just want the LLM to tell me what is the best performing ads. And I want to categorize each ad as a hell yes ads, a yes ad, a maybe ad, a not really ad, a we wasted money ad, or does the ad have insufficient data and spends, right? This is where you can see in the testing sample sheet I have here, right? I have these additional columns over here, which are the best performing ad. So when I run this, if I can share with you the sample output of how this might look like, notice the output of the LLM. The new metrics that comes out will be justifications, performance category, and recommendations. Everything else is actually the same. And after this, I'll then populate it back to the same Excel sheet where the ads data was populated. The ad name is usually here, but for privacy reasons, I've renamed it as ad 1, ad 2, ad 3. tree. Just imagine this is one of the particular ad that you're running, and you can see here the justification. Is it a hell yes ad? What are the recommendations for it? Moving on to workflow 2, we want to get the source file for the best performing ad. So what do I mean by source file? Source file meaning I need a link where I can actually send to n8n for analysis, right? So this is a sample ad that I've chosen. For demonstration purposes, I've actually downloaded a ton of ads from Athletic Greens. If you're unsure, they are basically a company running a lot of e-commerce ads. This would be a good case study for me to act on. Imagine that the URLs of these source files are your ads. Moving on to workflow 2, this is where you trigger another workflow to extract the best performing ads. This filter then only filters hell yes ads because we only want to get the file of the best performing ads. I then set up a loop node here because there are 8 creatives, right? So this process needs to repeat 8 times to get 8 URLs of 8 files that I want to analyze. This node over here extracts the access token that I have before, and then I have a HTTP request. The function of this HTTP request is to get the list of accounts that you have access to. The reason why you want to do this is because the token that you have is not the same as a page token. So I know this might get a little bit technical, but because you want to get the source file of your ad, right? The source file of your ad resides underneath your page and not the general access token that you have. Over here, I have a filter node. This filter node will then look through all the ads account I have access to, and this is where you want to populate the specific account you want to analyze. So in this case, I probably have it censored over here because this is the actual client that I'm running things on. The next thing I do is to get the creative ID of the best performing ad. This is where it might be a little bit tricky, right? Because the ad ID and the creative ID are different. So the ad ID is the ads you're running. The creative ID is like the picture, the video, the carousel that is attached to the ad ID. This is a specific function of this HTTP request, which is for me to get the specific creative ID. I then have an if-then statement node to check whether it's a video or image, but for now in this account, I have only run video ads. And this is the most important thing, which is to get the raw source file URL, which is to get the specific link of the ad file. The reason why I want to get a specific link to the ad is then I want to then send it to Gemini, whatever large language model, for analysis later. We are wanting to create iterations of the best performing ads to try to launch as new ads to try improve performance on our Meta Ads account. The next thing that this workflow does is to take the source file URL and then send it to the Google Sheet. So that's where I have this sample testing sheet filled with source URLs of AG1 ads. We now move on to the third workflow, which is to send the best performing ads to Google Gemini for analysis to get the transcriptions and description of the ad, and this is applicable for both image and video ads, and the output of insights will be in structured data. So let me share with you workflow 3. This node over here essentially extracts what is the best performing ads over here. The next thing I've done here is to put a switch function, videos to have one separate workflow and image to have another separate workflow. The major difference is that we want to get the full transcription, if any, for a video ad. I'll first run through what happens on the video ads layer. It downloads a video, it then uploads it to Gemini directly. If you're unsure about how to send it to Gemini, right, these are the HTTP request settings that I've put. You need to get your API key from Google AI Studio. So just Google AI Studio and get your API keys over here. But feel free to copy what I have here from a settings standpoint to send it to Google Gemini. So after you send it to Google Gemini, right, it needs a while to process and like watch the video, right? So I give it about maybe 30 seconds. So after 30 seconds, you can get the status of your video from Gemini again, because there's an output which gives you the file that you can access to check its status. So in this case, the HTTP request settings for this is fairly straightforward. The most important thing you need to look for is a state, and you need to make sure it's active. If this state is not active, it means your video is not ready from Gemini's side. I then put an if statement to check if the status of the ad is active. If not, it waits for another 30 seconds and then checks the status of the video again. So by another 1 minute or so, it should be ready. I only recommend you to analyze ads which are like 1 minute, at most 2 minutes. So after this, there's 2 workflows for the videos, right? So this is where you put in specific prompts to Gemini about a video you want. This is the URL that I've put. It's a post request via the HTTP request node. And then of course you have the API key. And this, I argue, is probably one of the most important things, where in full transparency, I actually asked AI to generate this prompt for me. But essentially what I'm asking this prompt to do, right? I want it to tell me what the hook of this video is. I want it to tell me what the text captions of this. I want the purpose of this video. Right? This is what the LLM gives me, which is not in the most friendly format. And that's why I actually have a code node to make this output in a more neater and structured manner. I'll then send this dataset back to the template Google Sheets that you have here. So this is where you can see like transcriptions, hooks, purpose, text captions. This Google Sheet node matches everything by ad ID and then puts the hook, purpose, text captions, and disclaimers into the right cell of the Excel sheet that we have. It then repeats 4 times because there are 4 best performing hell yes ads. Let's move on to the image ads over here. There are 4 best performing image ads. The first thing we need to do is download the link of the image. So you can see here the source URL. This is the ad that AG1 is currently using. So what I'm doing next is actually uploading this image to Gemini. This is the HTTP request that I have. I have my API key over here. Make sure the body settings are correct for you to send the binary file over to Gemini. I've then put a wait note over here. To be honest, I'm not sure if this is necessary, but for now, I've just put like 1 second. And usually for images, Gemini processes it very fast. This HTTP request then gets the status of the image. If the image is not active yet, there's another wait workflow and then repeats until the status of the image is active. The next note here then contains the prompt that I want to ask Gemini about the image that I've just sent it. This is the prompt I've used. Very transparently, I asked the LLM to generate it for me. The main goal of all this prompt, right, is just to make sure the LLM outputs structured data. Structured data is what we like and what we can reuse in many workflows to come. This is the JSON output that I've gotten. It's not clean JSON, so I then extract it and pass it into usable JSON. So you can see the focal point, text element, purpose, colors, layout is very nicely segmented. This is really nice for any LLMs to then process. I then use this Google Sheet note to populate the focal point, colors, layouts, text elements, all these wonderful things generated by the LLM back to the Google Sheet. So as you can see here, the focal point, colors, layout, text elements, these are the variables that are analyzed by Gemini. I think the fourth workflow is by far the most exciting. The first thing I do is extract the hell yes ads. The next thing I do is then split video ads and image ads separately because they have different parameters. By now, I think you should be able to see a pattern whereby you're preparing the data as best as possible for the LLM to analyze. You can see output 0, which is all the videos, right? I had the source URL, I have the full transcription of the video, I have the hook of the video, I have the purpose of the video, I have the full text captions of the video. The main job of this LLM over here is to generate new concepts. If you can look at this prompt over here, you are a top tier Facebook direct response creative strategist and performance ad copywriter. So this is the prompt that I've used. Your job is to generate a new Facebook video ad concept for the following brand that builds on a previously high-performing campaign. Brand info. So the brand info I put here is just AG1 for demonstration purposes. But let's say if I were to change it for any client, right, I want to put in the brand's information in because it gives context of what this brand is about. Then inputs from winning ad. The new concept must maintain clarity, emotional response, but test a new angle that could further improve results. Prioritize mobile first attention and rapid benefit comprehension. I dynamically use the ad name, hook, purpose, transcription, captions, disclaimer, and I also give it a specific output format of what I want. This is what the actual LLM gets, right? I'm trying my best to give the LLM the best materials for it to think of an alternative ad angle that could be passed on to an editor, designer, videographer to create. I've actually put up to 5 hooks because I do think hooks are extremely important in all meta ads, especially video ads. I also have sample transcriptions that are generated, and this could potentially be automated even further. Imagine if you get all the audio files of all the potential ads you want to generate. I also have a brief output, a single comprehensive brief that tells the designer editor exactly how the video should be executed, describe the visual structure, pacing, key overlays, icons, product usage, scenes, emotional tone. I also have a learning hypothesis. I'll be honest here, I'm just putting in a lot more stuff over here just to see what flies or not. This is the output that it gives, right? Hooks, feeling sluggish every day, show someone struggling to get out of bed. What if you could feel amazing every single morning? The one thing elite performers do every day. Before I move on, let me show you the ad that Gemini actually analyzed. So it says here, there's no way AG1 could get better.
There's no way AG1 could get better. Yes, AG1 replaces your multivitamin.
You can see the transcription of the ad over here. There's no way AG1 could be better. Yes, it supports energy. So the transcription here is okay. Over here, you then see new transcripts. You can see new hooks, right? So all these could be potentially recorded by an actual person or even recorded by an AI. I must say the output of this is not perfect because it actually has like instructions. Show person energized. This is more of a creative direction rather than the actual transcript. I'm sure I can fine-tune the output to only give me the voiceover such that I can maybe send it to an AI voice generator for me to create the audio files of it. It does not give 1, 2, 3, but it gives 5 hooks. It gives up to 3 video voiceover transcripts, which I think is really, really good. When it comes to my thought process of doing this, right, I want to have options in terms of choosing the best creative concept I'm comfortable with. So this is where a human comes in subjectively to see which voiceover transcripts here is the best. And maybe you can take it and edit it a little bit, and that's where you can then pass it to another team designer, videographer to then iterate on. There's also the output of the brief over here. It just gives you a very big picture of what you need to do. Any creative people, right, you want them to give a little bit of creative freedom to see how to explore these particular concepts. This gives you an option of how you can potentially share the brief with someone. So let's say if you want to engage someone on Upwork or Fiverr, I think this brief is actually fairly good to get a decent output from the freelancer. Moving on to image ads. Image ads, this is where I think things might get a little bit more interesting, right? So hear me out. Right now, we have this switch node over here. It then sends the 4 best performing image ads over here. And then you have this prompt. It's very similar to the other node that I just showed you, but there's a difference in terms of emphasizing that we are utilizing image concepts. Outputs that I want would be the original ad name, the focal points, the text elements, a brief, a learning hypothesis, a little bit more concise and easier compared to the video briefs. So this is the actual image that Gemini is analyzing. And as you can see here, traveling without AG1, expecting bloat, low energy, regret. Let's go back to our workflow. A glass bottle with a green liquid and an AG1 packet on the beach. Traveling without AG1. So you can see the text extracted from Gemini is really, really clear. Expecting bloating, low energy and regret. Placement top. Travel packs, no excuse. Fast forward to the output of the LLM. You can see the focal points over here. Person looking focused and energetic at a desk. AG1 shake in a glass or shaker. Text elements, afternoon energy crest. AG1 fuel focus. Then you can see the brief over here. The image should feature a bright, clean and dynamic shot capturing the essence of focus energy. So all these are all the outputs that the LM can give. And this is where the exciting part comes in. You can actually send this brief to Gemini. It will create an image ad for you, right? So basically it's asking you to create like a mock-up version of how the particular ad could look like. I've sent it to Gemini over here, but then you get this data, right? So what is this data? If I'm not wrong, I think it's like 64 base image. So you basically need to convert a base 64 string to a file, and then you can see the specific image that is generated. Now, I will say it's like not the best lah. It's really not good, right? The image that Gemini creates, right, are really not the best. It just gives you a glimpse of how your ad might look like, right? So I would say some of it is like not really good, but I do expect the AI models to get better. But think about it. All this, the good news is it's completely for free. These are Google Gemini credits. I think the rate limit is like 500 requests per day. So all of this is for free, you know. So I can only imagine that the model will get better, and you can really take reference into seeing how you could create ads. Of course, I do think that all these requires designer's fine touch, right? But let's say if you send this to a designer, right, I would assume that the designer is able to create the ad at a much faster rate, improving efficiency, right? Because why do we want to use AI, right? It's to just improve the efficiency of whatever we are doing. So after that, this part of the workflow loops as many times as it needs to. If there are 4 image ads, this will loop 4 times. So after all the image ads and video ads have been processed, it will then combine into a merge node. And I have this code node to then combine everything to make everything pretty from a HTML, CSS perspective, right? So it then generates this very nice HTML document. So this is the email that I then want to send to myself, right? So this ad one, as a recap, right, this is the name of the ad in your Facebook ads account. So these are the key hooks you can potentially use. These are the potential voiceover you could use. These are the brief you could use, and then it's separated into video and images, right? If you can click on view sample image, you'll then see a sample image of what this ad could look like. I know this has probably been a little bit of a long video and probably a messy one since it's my very first time making videos in terms of n8n workflows that I'm creating. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want to build workflows that are useful for myself, and if it's useful for myself, maybe it might be useful to someone out there.